So today we're going to be working on my 92 Dodge diesel, and I'm going to just show you what happens when you open the door. So that's not ideal, and it's a fairly common problem with these trucks. I actually was going to steal a door off another one we had in Colorado, but it was the exact same way, so I guess I'm going to fix this one. And you could replace the door, but then you got to paint it. It won't match. You have to change all the parts out of the inside, and they're expensive. They do make them, so if you wanted to go that route, you could, but I'm going to try something different. So let me show you what we're going to do. Gotta get around here and show you what the problem actually is. So if you look right down here at the hinge, you'll see that where the hinge is bolted to the door, it's completely busted out. And like I said, I've seen several of them that are like this. I know the pins wear sometimes, but that's not the problem with this one. The problem with this one is obviously that's busted out. So what my plan is take the door off, set it on a stand, and straighten that metal out. And I looked at a door that I had at the house in Colorado, and there's a reinforcement plate on the inside, so it's not as easy as just putting a piece of plate on the inside like I was hoping it was going to be. So what we're going to have to do is fabricate some type of backer piece to reinforce it that can fit in there, and then weld a new piece in on the outside and get our bolts to attach, and the plate that holds the bolts, have that held in there still, so that the door still functions like it's supposed to, lines up like it's supposed to, but doesn't try to fall off every time you open the door. The first thing we're going to have to do is pull the dash out, because the wiring harness comes up through there, and we'll be able to access it through this hole right here after we're going to take the headlight switch out. So after all of that, I still can't get to the plug. There's just not enough wire. I can feel it. It's right up here inside the A-pillar, and you just can't get to it. So I give up. I'm going to go ahead and pull the door panel off and pull all the wiring out and just leave the wiring in the truck. I'm not sure if you're going to be able to hear me, but I got all the wiring out of the door. It's all right there. Now I just got to take the 2 hinge bolts on the top off and the 3 on the bottom. We'll put this thing on a bench and see if we can figure out how we're going to fix it.
It's like he secretly wants a Jeep too.
What?
Huh? Nothing.
All right, so as you can see, it looks like somebody tried to weld this once before, and I'm really surprised that it didn't hold. No, really. So the reinforcement panel comes down to here. It's actually broke off. It's you can see it. It's right there, and then it would come up to here and be hooked and goes all the way around. Ouch, that's sharp. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna cut. Well, I guess the first thing I'm gonna do is take a couple of measurements to kind of get this plate back where it goes. Maybe mark it here and down here where the holes are at, and up here, just so that I can get it back in the approximate right location. I'm gonna drill some bigger holes in here. I'm gonna have to. And then I'll cut this back far enough that I can get into that reinforcement plate on the top and this side here. And then I'll weld a reinforcement, some type of reinforcement plate on the back on the bottom, and then we'll plate over it with something heavier than this. Grind it all smooth, put a little paint on it, and I think that's going to be good. So follow along as we try to salvage this old door. We've got our original reinforcement piece here, just kind of held in here with magnets, and I'm just going to tack that all back together. And then what I've decided I'm going to do is I'm going to get a piece of something heavier than the sheet metal, and I'll cut out a patch to go in here. And then I'll drill a couple holes in it so I can plug weld it to this reinforcement, and basically just plate this whole thing with something heavier than this. This is probably like 20 gauge. I'll try to get some like 16 gauge and plate that whole corner there, and I think that'll be strong enough to hold the door. All right, I got the original support piece welded back in and just ground off the high spots on the weld so my piece will fit nice and flat. I went out and dug through my scrap and I found this. I'm not sure what that was. I don't even know where it came from, but it feels like 16th, so it should be about 16 gauge, I think. I think that's how that works, but I could be wrong. I probably am. This is what I'm gonna use. I just gotta measure out my piece, cut out a square, figure out where my holes go, and drill all my holes in it. And then I'm gonna put this up there. Like I said, I'll drill a couple extra holes and plug weld it to that support. And then also have to have the holes for the door to bolt to. And I'm gonna drill those big. They're 5/16 bolts. I'll probably drill 1/2 inch holes on the center mark of those holes that are in the door. We'll see how this goes. Right. I got this piece all cut out and then I just laid it up here, and since our original holes came out pretty close to round or oval like they were originally, so I just laid this up here like this, and I used those magnets to hold it up there and then marked it from the inside where the holes go, and then I got a couple of end marks here. So I'll drill my holes, figure out where my plug welds are gonna be, and then we'll go back and clean the paint off the door and tack this to the support with some plug welds, and then weld the outside all the way around. And then time to bolt the door back on, see if it works. Okay, got it all ready to weld. Just drilled those 6 holes for spot welds. The 2 closest to the bottom bolt there, unfortunately I hit right where the relief is for the tab that holds the backing plate for the bolt, like the nut plate on the back. So I probably won't be able to weld those completely up. They'll just catch the edge of that reinforcement underneath. That's okay, because that's in the old metal. This one's gonna get out into the good metal on both sides here. And I'm gonna weld this edge here as well. So that should give me plenty of support. It's welded. That's all I'm gonna say. I really need a MIG welder. I'm really happy with how it turned out. It is by no means a pretty repair, but look at the truck. It's not pretty either. I think that's gonna be more than strong enough to hold the door back on there. And like I got 5 really good plug welds between the 16th plate and that reinforcement panel in the back. I got our little piece in the back here is nice and free, so the door can be adjusted. It's got to be stronger than it was when I took it off. The challenge of trying to TIG weld sheet metal without a perfectly tight fit is real, especially for somebody who's not really very good at TIG welding anyway. I'm gonna go ahead and throw some primer on here and a coat of white Krylon paint over it that's not gonna match at all, but that's okay. And now some not the right color white. Now it's all painted, it's time to set this door back on here.
Would you rather me hold up the other end?
Yep. We got the door all put back on. It works pretty good. I think I need to put a little lube on it. And that's one thing you can do to help prevent that problem. If you keep that bottom hinge lubed, and also don't let this door slam open. That's what breaks that bottom hinge out of these doors, because the stop is only on that bottom hinge. But it's all adjusted, but it doesn't seem to close as good as the other side. So I want to show you a trick that probably most of you will know, but I'm going to show it anyway. You just open a window. You don't have to slam the door. What happens is it pressurizes the cab enough that the door doesn't want to close. So just opening the window lets the air come out. Whoop, still got to get a little force. Now it's making a liar out of me. But I don't have any scientific way to show you that I'm using the same amount of force. There as I was before. Other than telling you, it feels like I'm using the same amount of force with the wing window open. It closes. With the wing window closed, it just goes to that flat. Door closes, shuts nice, gaps look good, weather seal's tight. I can't see daylight in there anymore, but there's no daylight in there, so Someday I'll get in it and look out, but right now there's stuff all over the seat. And I'm cold and I'm tired and tonight's done. So we're going in the house. We'll finish this in the morning. Just have to put the interior back together. I got a couple other things I want to do while I have it apart. I'm putting new speakers in the front, in the doors, because the ones that were in there don't work at all. And I want to move the tack. So yeah, we'll see you in the morning.
It's not the morning, but better late than never, I suppose.
Yeah, it's the next day, just not first thing in the morning. So I'm just taping this inner support piece, or inner support, it's not a support. It's almost as rigid as the door, but it's not quite. This plastic piece, I've tried gluing these back on before, and it's been fruitless for me in the past. I can't, you never get them to stick right. And we're just gonna put a little tape on there and create a little bit of a vapor barrier. So this switch is, the clip is broke on the plastic piece here, and the switch tries to fall out. So we're just gonna duct tape it. We're gonna put a little tape down there and on the back of the switch. It's got an interference fit, so it doesn't fall out real easily, but it does try to fall out, and now it's not, so should be good. Now it's time to put our door panel back on. We're just gonna feed our switches through this hole here, and I found this is the easiest way to get these off, because there's some release tabs that are kind of a pain to reach, and that's probably how the plastic bezel on this one got busted and it doesn't hold that switch anymore. It's because somebody tried to pull the wiring off and leave the switches in the door panel. Once you get it through there, it's not too bad. And then you just got all these little metal clips, and you need to get them started in the hole. If you just start slamming on them, you'll bend them, and then they won't hold anything. So just start them in the hole, give them a little pop. They should go in pretty easy. They shouldn't be real difficult to get in there.
And they also like to fall off when you take the panel off.
Or when you
Move it, touch it, look at it.
sometimes extra parts is extra parts because it has extra parts. How many times can you say extra parts in one sentence? There's a screw in here. And a screw in here. That should work. So these get broke because the doors don't close right, and then people do what Amber does and they grab a hold of this and pull with two hands as hard as they can.
The door doesn't close right.
The door closes right now, so it should, that should survive. Just gonna put a little white lithium grease on the hinge and on the catch here. Let's see if we can get the door closed without tearing the handle off of it. Can you open the door?
Oh, I'm gonna go relax.
I can get it open. It's just a pain in the ass. Okay, open it now. Alright, that'll work just fine. Last thing we have to do is get this on there, which is sometimes harder than you think it would be. Other times it goes really easy. Now we just need to make sure it opens and closes from the inside. Perfect. Now I gotta put this mess back together. First I gotta figure out how to get this tack where I want it. We got a little bit done to the white truck here. Got the door all fixed so that it opens, doesn't try to fall off, and closes. We also got the inside cleaned up a little bit. I mean, it's not perfect, but it's a lot better than it was. Moved that tack around, and I didn't show it, but I also put a new a used power mirror on this side and replaced the window motor on the other side. It hasn't worked for, I don't know, 9 months. So we needed to get that done. Just taking care of some maintenance that we've been meaning to do for a long time and just haven't got to it. And I figured I'd share it with you and let you guys follow along. If you have any questions about anything that we did, you know, comment down below. And if we need to make a more in-depth video on something, we can try to do that. See you soon.